making a decision that's not in your favor?
Well, I'd rather discuss that later. I hope we're going to win that case. I think it's one of the most important cases in the history of our country. So much evolves around tariffs as a defensive mechanism for our country, as national security for our country. So I don't want to really discuss a ground here. This is so important. If you look at China, and I covered this yesterday, but if you look at China, by putting a large 100% tariff over and above the tariffs they already paid, they came to the table, they talked, we made a wonderful deal for everybody. Our farmers, as you know, with the soybeans at levels that nobody's ever seen before, we were able to make phenomenal deals. If we didn't have the tariffs, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we thought we did very well yesterday. We hope that we did. I think it would be devastating for our country, but I also think that we'll have to develop a Game 2 plan. We'll see what happens. Most people tell me we did very well legally.
Mr. President, related to that, are you moving forward with any new tariff announcements before a decision from the Supreme Court?
This is the best one, and we can do other things, but they're slow by comparison. It's like as an example, with the 100%, I was able to do it instantaneously when we were threatened by the rare earths, as you know, the magnets. And I did it instantaneously. It was a matter of seconds. And it was a matter of seconds that I got a phone call, let's work this out. We would have had not nearly the defense that we had. It would be a shame. It would be somewhat catastrophic for our country, I have to be honest with you. I don't want to get too much involved, but what we've done, we're taking in hundreds of trillions of dollars. If you take a look at the numbers we have $17 trillion right now. We're going to be at $21 trillion, about $21 trillion by the time I've finished my first year. Biden, as an example, the Biden administration was at less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We're going to be at $21 trillion for 1 year. In the history of the world, there's never been a country that's done that. Not China, not the U.S., not anybody. And a lot of that is because of the tariffs and the fact that the president is a competent president that knows how to use them. And I use them for national defense. Of the 8 wars I ended, I would say 5 or 6 were ended because of tariffs. I'll give you an example. If you take a look at India and Pakistan, they started to fight. They're 2 nuclear nations. They were shooting each other. 8 planes were shot down. There was 7, now it was 8 because the one that was sort of shot down is now abandoned. And 8 planes were shot down. And I said, listen, if you guys are going to fight, I'm going to put tariffs on you. And they both went, they were not happy about that. And within 24 hours, I settled the war. If I didn't have tariffs, I wouldn't have been able to settle that war. So it's great national defense, and you have to be quick moving. You can't wait around for months and months while you're doing studies and you're doing all of this, or go back to Congress. Look at Congress. We can't even get a continuation from Congress. Think of that. How do you have to go back to Congress? You have to do this spur of the moment, because just so you understand, we're here at spur of the moment. Other countries have used tariffs that absolutely they would have destroyed us. If I didn't come along, our country would be destroyed right now. The tariffs have made us rich in terms of national security. They've made us secure. And if you have economic strength, that's also, if you have a lack of economic strength, that's national security also. But we have great national security because of those tariffs. So I think it would be devastating if we lost that ruling.
Issues are ruling. It could be several weeks. Are you going to lay out any new additional tariffs before that?
I'm going to hope that we win. I can't imagine that anybody would do that kind of devastation to our country. We'd have to pay back trillions of dollars. We've taken in trillions. We haven't taken in billions. We've taken in trillions of dollars. We've made trade deals based on that give us, as an example, European Union, $950 billion. Japan, $650 billion. South Korea, $350 billion. Without this, we're not talking about that kind of money. And they're okay. They're satisfied. They love us. They just left. They all love us. So it's not like we're such bad people. But they were doing it to us until I came along. Now they don't do it to us, we do it to them a little bit. But if they took this away, we would be defenseless against tariffs from other countries.
On employer plans and individual plans who also don't have access to GLP-1s, what can you do to make those insurers and PBMs get these same prices so they can put access for those
I'll
folks?
ask Oz or Bobby that question. It's a good question.
Absolutely. Many Americans receive their insurance through the commercial markets. The companies have committed to ensure that at worst, prices are at MFN on GLP-1s and are committed to continue to negotiate those prices down based on volume, just as they do in any other instance. Another really interesting thing we're seeing, though, is that commercial plans and PBMs increasingly are enabling access for their beneficiaries, their patients, to make purchases in the cash market and then still receive coverage under their accumulators and their deductibles. And so we're building that capacity, and absolutely, Trump RX is being built to enable just that behavior and drive transparency in the process.
President, there are so many Americans that report tremendously positive results from these drugs. What real-world impact do you think this will be? Is there an estimate on how many Americans may now take these drugs? And also about the informed consent on side effects. There are lawsuits against these companies that some people experienced damage to their gut health, vision loss, and other potentially serious side effects there. So how will we ensure Americans are able to make the best choice of the risk versus the rewards?
Well, I'll let them speak about the side effects, but I've heard about very little side effects with respect to these drugs. I mean, it's all positive, and that's usually not the case. I mean, usually you hear bad things. You see these crazy commercials on television where they tell you 15 different things that can go wrong, and then you're supposed to buy it. Very few, but I'll let you handle that.
At a high level, 1 in 3 people who can hear my voice are eligible for these medications. That's the magnitude of impact. And we believe, just to reemphasize, we will actually save the American taxpayer money if people use these drugs appropriately for the duration for which they're indicated. There are always going to be side effects of anything strong enough to help you, strong enough to hurt you. The question is the trade-off worth it? We know the ravaging risks of obesity and all downstream issues ranging from diabetes and hypertension to renal failure, dementia, heart disease, my specialty. But I'll ask Dave Ricks from Lilly to maybe start off, because he can give an honest appraisal of potential risks people should be aware of. There's no free cheese.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I mean, today, as you may know, there's about 8 million people benefiting from the two companies' medications. This new announcement will make that tens of millions that could benefit from it. So it's a huge improvement. But as the previous question, we need commercial plans and other insurers to step into this arrangement. I think probably both companies will work hard to make sure that happens. Yeah, as Dr. Oz said, no drug that can help you has no side effects. Most of them are well known. We've been using this class of medications for nearly 20 years. And that's why it's important that patients go to their doctor and decide together whether this is right for them, and their doctor knows their medical history and has the information about these medications. But we're confident in the safety, but there's always some precautions we should have, and people's own medical histories matter in that decision.
And are there any estimates for? Yes.
What I would like to say is also that, of course, in my speech I made a comment that what happened today allows us and Lilly to provide medications to millions and millions more than they are getting it today. Today, a lot of those patients are trying to go out there and take the knockoff versions of these medications, mainly because they were cheaper than our medication. With the reduction of the price, hopefully many of these patients don't need to choose their safety over their wallet and now are able to find the real thing at a very decent price.
Is that a big problem for you, knockoffs? Sounds like it might be.
It has been, yes. It has been. But on the other hand, of course, patients have to be able to afford it. So it has been also our job to make sure that affordability.
Are the knockoffs dangerous?
The knockoffs are not FDA. The API, the raw ingredient that goes into them, are not FDA approved. So nothing is as good as the original.
Yeah, I know that.
Yesterday in the Supreme Court, Chief Justice Roberts said that tariffs are taxes and that they're paid by Americans. He said this pretty clearly. And yet you're saying that this money is rolling in from other countries. How do you square those two?
It is. It's coming in because they charged us. You know, the same countries that you talk about are charging us massive amounts of money. If you look at the tariffs over the years that were put on our heads. There's a reason we're $38 trillion owed. Now that money's going to start coming down. But we had presidents that didn't know how to use tariffs. We had presidents that had no understanding of business. But if you take a look at what's happened to us, every country charges tariffs. China, the European Union was brutal. They charged us tariffs, not only tariffs, they charged us tariffs so we couldn't sell cars there. We couldn't sell our product. They didn't want our agriculture. They didn't want our cars. Now they're taking our cars, and now they're taking our agriculture. Far more than money. It really is a defensive mechanism. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be unable to defend ourselves.
So then do you agree then that Americans are paying those tariffs?
I think, no, I don't agree. I think that they might be paying something, but when you take the overall impact, the Americans are gaining tremendously. They're gaining through national security. Look, I'm ending war because of these tariffs. Americans would have to fight in some of these wars. They're gaining in national security. They're gaining in economics. They're gaining in so many different ways. And they're gaining in self-respect for our own country. Other countries used to laugh at us. They would charge us tariffs. Japan was charging us massive tariffs, and yet they wouldn't allow our cars to be sold in Japan. But they were selling 9 million cars here, but they wouldn't allow one car. Not one car was sold in Japan. They don't laugh at us anymore. This is really a matter of, this is national security. And by the way, going bankrupt is national security. Our country was really in trouble. Going bankrupt, and the difference between going bankrupt and thriving, that's also national security. When you go bankrupt, when you don't have any money, you have no national security. And we are thriving. All this money coming into our country that I told you about, the 17 trillion as of now, but it's going up rapidly. I was in Japan, and we have Toyota is coming in with $10 billion to build plants, operated by Americans, but building plants all over the United States. Well, they left. They took our plants. They sold cars in here without tariffs. They sold cars. We didn't charge them anything. They destroyed our auto industry. We lost 50%, 54% of our auto industry to others. We used to, if you go back into the 30s and 40s, we had 100% of the automobile business. Then it started getting chopped away. But Mexico, Canada, many countries, Canada fought us very hard. The ones that don't want us to win are foreign countries that we are able now to do very well with. Those are the ones that fight it. Those are maybe people that hate our country. I think it's the most important case maybe in the history of our country.
This has been a major achievement for your administration, targeting the segment of our population that needs it the most, that has the highest obesity rates. You're making it affordable. You are truly saving lives. That's coming from the viewers that we've had in that 1 hour that we took a little bit of a break. My question to you is, Walmart just pushed out a report that says this year's traditional Thanksgiving meal will cost 25% less than it did under the Biden administration, plus gas prices being down in the $2 region makes it more affordable to travel to Grandma's house for this Thanksgiving.
Thank you very much. And I read, it's not so much a question, it's a statement. I would have made the statement, but yet we have a lot of things happening, so I wouldn't necessarily have made it right now. So Walmart, to me, that's AAA, came out that nobody going to influence them. I don't know them. But they just came out with a very powerful statement. They've done it for many years, that under the Biden administration, Thanksgiving meal, a Thanksgiving meal with all the trimmings, costs 25% more. In other words, our Thanksgiving this year coming up will cost 25% less than Sleepy Joe Biden's. Now, to me, that's better than anything there is. That's better than a poll. They've got everything included, from the trimmings and from the turkey and from everything. A lot of different items. It's 25% less this year than it was last year when he was so-called in charge. He wasn't in charge. The people around the desk were in charge. The oil pen was in charge. That is a big factor. And I was angry last night with the Republicans. They say, you don't talk about this stuff. Nobody talks about it. I rely on a question from a reporter to get that out. We should be talking about it because they talk about affordability. They don't have affordability. We had the highest inflation in the history of our country under Biden. We had high gasoline prices at $4.50, $5 a gallon. They're going to be hitting $2 a gallon with me. They're getting close to $2 a gallon. And when gasoline goes down and energy goes down, everything else follows. What the Democrats do is they lie. We are the ones that have done great on affordability. They've done horribly on affordability. The only thing is they go out and they take commercials how under the Democrats you have affordability. It's just the opposite. We have much lower prices than they do. And we only have one thing, beef, because the cattle ranches are doing well. We're going to bring the beef prices down, and they understand that, even if we have to help them out. But the beef also is not a big difference. But every price is down. The biggest price is energy. We're at almost $2 for gasoline, and you take a look at where they were at $4.50, $5 for gasoline. And when gasoline and energy comes down, everything else follows. And I was so happy. Last night I made a speech, and then I get off the stage. I said, I feel like going up and saying it, because I have a lot of respect for Walmart. And nobody's influencing Walmart. They came out and they said, Trump's Thanksgiving dinner, same things, is 25% less than Biden's. And we are the affordability when we are the ones that have done a great job in affordability, not the Democrats. And yet we just lost a couple of elections that were very Democrat areas. Maybe it won't be full. They weren't very Democrat when I ran a year ago because I did well in those areas. But we just lost an election, they said, based on affordability. It's a con job by the Democrats. The Democrats are only good at con and cheating on elections. Thank you for the question.
Can I ask you a question about India?
Say it.
How is the talks with Prime Minister Modi going on the trade deal? And when do
Going good. He stopped buying oil from Russia.
when do you plan
And
to
he's a
announce?
friend of mine, and we speak, and he wants me to go there. We'll figure that out. I'll go. I had a great trip there with Prime Minister Modi. He's a great man, and I'll be going.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle
You're
of
planning to go to India next year? You're planning to go to India next year, sir?
It could be, yeah.
Novo Nordisk is in the middle of a potential $10 billion acquisition for a smaller obesity biotech. They might need your and the FTC's help to see that through. Do you have any issues with that, or Eli Lilly buying a smaller obesity biotech from an anti-competitive
Well, I don't know.
standpoint?
Do you want to talk about that? I mean, I'd like to hear it. Maybe you should give us a piece of the company like I've been asking for.
So
Give the United States a nice big chunk of the company.
So Novo Nordisk and Pfizer right now are in the middle of an acquisition dialogue and discussion.
It's you and Pfizer?
It's us and Pfizer.
Competing for the company?
Competing for the company.
Who's winning?
And as of today, our bid is higher. And our message to Pfizer is that if they would like to buy the company, then put your hand in the pocket and bid higher. It's a free market. And at the end of it, it has to do with basically the price that the seller is selling for their shareholders and the buyer's willing to pay for it. This has nothing to do with FTC, has nothing to do with anything else.
Do you think it's
Is that a
anti-competitive?
similar product to what we're talking about today?
It's a product, it's a series of products that will come to the market in around turn of the decade, where the market is very crowded with many, many other players as well. So it's the next generations of products, and it will become five. Yeah.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
Zoran Mandami, you said that, you called him a communist. You said that if he won, you would take drastic action against New York City. What kind of actions are you looking at, and will the ICE deportations continue?
Well, I think you have to look. If he is a communist, there's not going to be a lot of activity. So you wouldn't need bridges and tunnels and all the different things that were being planned for New York, I think. And look, I hope New York does well. That's all I can say. I love New York. I grew up in New York. I did well in New York. Always did well. And I hope New York does well. That's all.
Will they continue?
ICE raids, well, you want to get criminals out. If they're criminals, we want to get them out. Ideally, we wouldn't have to do it because he'll send the criminals out himself. But that seems to be unlikely. No, we have to get criminals out. Millions of people were let into our country from prisons and from mental institutions and drug dealers, a lot of drug dealers and murderers, 11,888 murderers. 50% of them committed more than one murder. We want to get them out. So whether they're in New York or anywhere else, we want to get them out. We've created a great place in Washington. All you know, you see the difference between what it was now and what it was a year ago under Biden. It was a death trap, and now it's people walk down the street, they have dinner, the restaurants are booming. Washington, D.C. is great. I will tell you, Memphis is doing really well too. You're hearing those reports. It's companies were going to move out, they're not going to move out anymore. We've done a great job, but we've only been there for 4 weeks. So we've done a great job with it. But if they have killers in New York, we want to get them out. If they have murderers, if they have people from jails that they allowed out of their jails in order to save a lot of money, we want them out of here. We want to put it back in their jails, not our jails.
My question in regards to TSA, would you ever consider privatizing TSA? That question comes to us from our viewers all the time, and I told them I would ask you.
I think of privatizing a lot of things, but generally speaking, you have government, and a lot of people don't like privatizing, but some things that they really do, they work out better privatized. But it is government, and sometimes government can be better. It's something a lot of people talk about.
I've heard the government, as far as air traffic controllers, is 2 thumbs up on that. I've heard from dozens of pilots who have flown the last 90 days, particularly under all the stress of the government shutdown.
Right.
They tell me, Brian, that is the one thing the government does right is air traffic controls.
Well, we're going to do it a lot better, too, because we're going to buy a new system. It's under bid right now. Bid about 4 different companies, all top of the line, like these 2 great companies, except, in a slightly different field. And the air traffic control equipment is 45 years old. Buttigieg spent billions of dollars trying to fix it and didn't even use the right wire. You're hooking up glass into copper, and you can't do that. If they went to a reasonably good school, they'd find out you can't hook glass into copper. And they spent billions of dollars, and it was actually made the system much worse. We're going to get rid of the entire system, put a brand new system in. It'll be expensive, but we'll have the best air control system, meaning the control towers. They'll be stripped down to the bone, and brand new equipment is being installed. And we'll give out that. It's a big contract. We'll give out that contract over the next 6 weeks.
President announced, sir, that the FAA is going to have to cut about 10% of flights at the top 40 airports because of the government shutdown. Are you at all concerned that it might not be safe to fly right now? And what do you tell people who are gearing up for Thanksgiving?
Yeah, fair question. Sean Duffy announced they're cutting in certain areas 10%. And they want to make sure it's 100% safe. That's why they're doing it.
Mr. President, given these modifications that are being made to air travel, the other disruptions with the government shutdown, do you think it's time for Republicans in Congress to change their negotiating position at all?
In what way?
To start making concessions to Democrats?
Well, I think it's time for them to end the filibuster and just put everybody back to work. Vote in voter ID, vote in no mail-in voting except for military, faraway military, and people that are very sick. I'd like to see one-day voting. I'd like to see not 65 days of voting from all over the place. No, I'd like to clean up the elections. The border, we've done a great job. We have a great, strong border now. But I'd like to see new rules on immigration that can be fair and good, but rules that you'll never get, rules that they're never going to get. There's so many things we could put in, including tax cuts that we could get, and we could do it all ourselves. But to do that, you have to end the filibuster. The filibuster is, and they'll do it too. They'll immediately do it. What they're going to do is, what the Democrats will do is they're going to make Puerto Rico a state. They're going to make D.C. a state. They're going to pack the court. They're going to end up with more electoral votes. They're going to end up with 4 senators because of the 2 states. And they're going to do this 100%. They would have done it except Manchin and Sinema got in their way. They would have done it. So if they're going to do it, I would do it. I would do it before them.
And you think that the longer
like Israel attacked first. That attack was very, very powerful. I was very much in charge of that. When Israel attacked Iran first, that was a great day for Israel because that attack did more damage than the rest of them put together. What I'd like to see is I'd like to see voter ID. I'd like to Who wouldn't approve voter ID? The Democrats. Why wouldn't they approve it? Because they cheat. There's only one reason not. We don't have voter identification, and we should have it. If we got rid of the filibuster in one day, you'd have voter identification. The only reason they don't want it is because they cheat.
ACA tax credits, there's some people on Republicans who would also like to see the ACA tax credits extended for middle-class folks who are buying insurance on their own. Where do you weigh in on that?
Well, I don't weigh in, but we're looking at all of that right now. We're looking at all of it. There are a lot of great ideas out there, including for health care, because Obamacare is a disaster. The Obamacare premium is going to go up 17 or 18%, and that's not my fault. I didn't want Obamacare. That's the fault of the people that put it in, the Democrats. And now they want to subsidize further. But, where you take it from them, you take it from a lot of other people. We could have much better health care at a much lower price.
Mr. President, are you doing all of these drug pricing announcements with another company, or is this the last we're going to see for a while? About drug pricing, deals.
Oh, no, everybody's involved, and we're going to get low pricing from, all companies are being involved. We are now going to have, with all drugs, the lowest price anywhere in the world. That's the price we're going to have.
And we have
That's called favored nations. We were stupid nations before. We paid 10 times more, sometimes 15 times more than they were paying in Europe and other places. So that was really stupid.
In 2 years, these will go down. The injectable prices will go down to $250, I believe. But American patients might still look at European prices and say these aren't quite low enough to match that. What would you say in response to people?
Because as far as I'm concerned, we're at favored nations. If Europe is paying less, then now there could be other reasons. There could be a distribution, et cetera, et cetera. It's harder to get to, but outside of pretty minor things, this is favored nations. We are going to be paying the lowest price in the world, outside of some nations that are stone cold bankrupt, have no money, and people make contributions of medicines to those nations, including us. We're going to have the lowest prices anywhere in the world. And your drug prices will go down 600, 700, 800%. And I'll be given no credit for it, because I never get credit for anything. But nobody else could have done this.
Well, hello, everyone. Just wanted to share President Donald J. Trump there in his press briefing in the Oval Office. Welcome, one and all. I am just getting dialed in here. And I hope you're having a great Thursday evening. I am very excited to be with you this evening. I am kind of busting at the seams to talk with you all about some really, really cool stuff that I see happening. Today, Nancy Pelosi announced that she would not be running for office again, which, takes us to it takes us to the reality of some of the Q drops that is all going to be, for example, like the ones that are stepping aside, the ones that are stepping down. It's a lot of like things that are happening that we sometimes forget how much is really going on. And yet when you really look at it closely, and I want to share an MJ Truth Ultra post with you. And that's right here. So this is MJ Truth. Since Trump stepped on the scene in 2016, it's been a wild ride for the old guard. Dynasties crumbling, key players checking out. Nancy Pelosi is gone. The Cheney dynasty is done. McCain dynasty is done. Bush dynasty is dead. Dick Cheney. Colin Powell, Andrew Marshall, Pope Francis, Benjamin de Rothschild, Evelyn de Rothschild, Jacob Rothschild, William, Nathaniel Philip, David Rockefeller, Henry Kissinger, Queen Elizabeth II, Prince Philip, Silvio Berlusconi, Constantine II. Epstein blackmail operation is no longer. The Diddy blackmail operation no longer. Nexium, John of God, who was the spiritual advisor for Oprah. Peter Nygaard, the Canadian Jeffrey Epstein. Also missing there is the, not only is the Epstein blackmail op, destroyed, but Ghislaine is in prison. What's his name? Jean-Luc Brunel is dead. Some really nasty characters. 3 SCOTUS picks, 300 judges that Trump has appointed, Roe v. Wade, and needless to say, not enough judges because the sheer amount of judges that are absolutely getting in the way of this shift that we're witnessing by the Trump administration towards common sense, towards America first, etc. They are exposing themselves to be quite corrupted. The Roe v. Wade was overturned in terms of the first Trump administration, and I've said this many times. This isn't a conversation about whether or not a woman should be allowed to abort a pregnancy. That single topic was couched as a right, as a human right. And the 10th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states specifically if it is not mentioned in the Constitution, it reverts back to the states. So the Roe v. Wade overturned wasn't President Trump taking away your right to an abortion or your ability to get an abortion. What it did was it reverted that decision back to the states. So while everybody is, wearing what do you call it, the maid outfits when they're voting, what do you call it? I never watched the show, the Handmaid's Tale outfits, those 3 women that I took a picture with when I was voting last year, which, by the way, congratulations to MAGA for the 1-year anniversary yesterday for electing Donald Trump to continue his work. Now, this is obviously on the surface view, but when you realize that Joe Biden was not the same Joe Biden, that there was never an inauguration was not only, minutes early, like 17 minutes, 13 minutes early than the 12 p.m. that it should have been done, but the shadows of that 12 p.m. inauguration were far too long for it to be 12 noon. It was a morning filming, if you will. And I proved with 1 frame of video that it was not shot live. And I've showed that many times here on the show with the same frame of video. So this is just on the surface stuff that we're talking about here, obviously. Constitutional carry protected, big thing. That's the Second Amendment. Religious freedom secured, obviously the First Amendment. And also along with that, the free speech, how the operation of the Biden auto pen administration was conspiring with the Biden FBI and CIA was conspiring with big tech to take down accounts such as mine and many others, to shadow ban, to hide these posts. So that was also that's a big thing. Religious freedoms secured, affirmative action overturned, climate change agenda halted, West Virginia versus EPA, Ohio versus EPA, cleaner and safer streets, especially in the streets where President Trump has brought in the National Guard. What he did in Los Angeles, very, very important. What he did in Washington, D.C., is a model for the rest of the country. And now in Memphis, doing great things and making Memphis much safer. It's really bringing to light these governors, these mayors that are fighting against Trump for safer streets. I mean, it's just, I mean, you couldn't write this script any more ridiculous. Like if we were writing a script and, somebody mentioned, hey, let's have the Democrats in this movie fight against the government, the federal government coming in with U.S. Marshals, with National Guard, to rural problem areas in these major cities. Let's have them fight against that. I mean, when I first would see that, I would say, yeah, that's kind of ridiculous because nobody's going to make that stupid a choice. And yet we see it being made over and over and over again. Federal power weakened, SEC versus Jarchese. The fourth branch of government destroyed, which is basically the deep state. Here we go. Georgia Guidestones destroyed. Space Force created, which we know is much more than the space, but the cyberspace, which is so very important. And with the Elon Musk satellites, and Q has told us that the CIA satellites have been taken out. Planned Parenthood being dismantled. This is amazing. People that are fervently anti-abortion, pro-life, their tax dollars were actually being used to abort children. Also, the history of Planned Parenthood of Margaret Sanger, who, if she was around today, she would absolutely be labeled a racist, okay, because she was a racist, and not in the racist term that, oh, if you vote for Donald Trump, you're racist. No, I'm talking about like a real racist, like we've got to get rid of the Negro babies, which were Margaret Sanger's exact words when she created Planned Parenthood. And also important to remember who funded Margaret Sanger, which was William Gates Sr., Bill Gates' father. MSM Mockingbird Media exposed. I've brought this up many times in discussing all these influencers that are anti-Trump because of his support for Israel. And I ask the question every time, if he is such a fervent supporter of Israel, why has he dismantled their number one tool that they use to control the minds of man, which is the CIA Mockingbird mainstream media, which he has absolutely destroyed? And why would he be taking money out of the central bank, which is controlled by the Rothschilds, who created Israel? So these are important questions to ask when you're, trying to figure out who you should be listening to. Big tech exposed, what I mentioned earlier about the FBI and the CIA collusion with big tech, and also the bots that were uncovered by Elon Musk when he took over which, as you know, on this show, I told you that the White Hats have been partially in control of Twitter ever since the Saudi Arabia purge of 2017. And there were two examples of posts that show that the White Hats had the source code of Twitter. Elections being rigged and exposed. Now, many of us want to see much, much more done on that because we're still seeing elections that are being controlled. And by the way, Tina Peters is still in a state penitentiary. Now, the feds are trying to have her moved to a federal facility. I'll talk about that a little bit more in the future. But, here's a Gold Star mother, and she exposed these rigged elections, and she was put in prison by the state, by the Attorney General of Colorado. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Eric, George Soros roles exposed and taken out of multiple states. Also, the machines were bought by a Republican, by somebody that will make sure that paper ballots match the machines. Massive amounts of resignations, which with the biggest being Nancy Pelosi. I guess she sees this bill on the floor of no longer being able to insider information to focus on her trades. And so she figures, the jig is up. I can't. My husband wants me probably to resign because we're not going to be able to use those stock tips anymore, right? Okay, so that's huge. The exposure of school indoctrination of our children, the sheer amount of people, parents, that got involved in their school boards during President Trump's first administration was not only unprecedented, but it was so important that Joe Biden had to have his FBI go after, and Merrick Garland actually send out notes to their agents to be on the lookout for these parents at these school board meetings. Unbelievable, right? Let's see. Evil exposed like never before. I mean, we're seeing it left and right. The explosion of human trafficking arrests has been significant. And while many have called out and cried out for the Epstein files, I have been a voice of reason, and I've said to you that we are absolutely going to see arrests related to Epstein, but it can't happen yet because the moment that the Epstein files are released, we are going to see the definitive and firsthand connection to Israel and Mossad. And we're not ready for that yet. But what you are seeing on social media is the exposure of Israel like never before. Especially, it's almost like these influencers like, Brandon Tatum and Randy Fine and Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro. Thank you. Keep going. Keep pushing for Israel, because it is so very apparent that you are bought and controlled by that government, all these influencers. So please keep promoting Israel, keep doing this, because you are doing more to wake up the masses to this corrupt government, not Jews, okay? This corrupt government. Please keep calling all of us that are calling out, okay, these influencers for being paid and being shills, and keep having them push, and call anybody who challenges the government of Israel an anti-Semite. Please keep doing that, because it is brilliantly effective at waking up the masses to your true agenda. But what I've said about the Epstein, see, that's been shut down. There's no Ghislaine Maxwell, there's no Epstein, there's no island anymore, okay, where human trafficking is occurring. So that's dead. Now, do prosecutions have to come from that? Absolutely. And I'm guessing out of the 550,000 sealed indictments, I'm going to guess that, yeah, some of them in there are probably related to Epstein, okay? Because there's over 500,000. That's a lot of people. And remember, each sealed indictment, I believe the number is 93 people could be in each of those indictments, okay? So what we're seeing the FBI doing is busting human trafficking operations that are existing and operating currently, not focusing on ones that were shut down many years ago. Big Pharma is exposed, okay, with the metals in the vaccines that are being called out by Maha. Now, a lot of people have concerns over Maha, especially today. President Trump talked about Ozempic and how much less expensive Ozempic is going to be for those who are using it. So it's like, why are we still using these kind of drugs? And why is Pfizer getting so much money when many of us were wanting the arrest? And again, my friends, you will find that this will all tie back to Israel, okay? And that is why much of this, I believe, is being paused or held back until, as Q said, we're saving Israel for last. 3-letter agencies exposed ongoing. Look at all the firings that have come from the FBI, those who were involved in the Mar-a-Lago raid, those who were involved in the censorship of citizens on big tech and so forth. Big things happening there. The New World Order exposed. I mean, look at the WEF, look at Klaus Schwab, look at George Soros, and look how they're all being exposed. And Soros, we're going to have some more on him later in the show. Disney exposed. And not only Disney, but Netflix. I mean, just, clear proof that they are absolutely, without question, they are going after our children with not science, woke ideology, just grooming our children into a culture of confusion and gender dysphoria. And that's all being exposed. Again, going back to the mainstream media. Remember, the Obamas were on the board of Netflix. Susan Rice was on the board of Netflix. There's a lot of push in the direction for this woke programming, and that's all being exposed. The biolabs are exposed. The Wuhan, the biolabs in Ukraine. Warmongers are being exposed. Here's the president that is trying to get us out of wars and exposing those who are trying to get us into wars. And the one that is up for criminal referral is John Bolton, who has been a key warmonger across multiple multiple administrations. Vaccines exposed. Again, the metals in the vaccines, the connection to autism and so forth. Chemtrails exposed. Look at that. States that are calling out and taking this out of the air, and many people who have seen much less geoengineering since the government shutdown. This is huge. BLM exposed. The birth date of Saint Floyd. Okay, who now that people are awake know that he died of fentanyl overdose. Okay, and speaking of fentanyl overdose, look at all the ships that are just being blown out of the water. President Trump isn't waiting until these drugs get on our city streets, which makes it almost impossible to stop at that point at any level, because you take down one drug dealer, another one pops up and fills that space. He's stopping it before it gets to the border. How much fentanyl was stopped at the southern border with 0 people coming across, and how much is being stopped in the waters now? The next thing is they'll go to the air, and we'll see similar, I think, examples of that. George Soros exposed. Again, much more coming out on that. FTX exposed. This FTX, now they're trying to rebrand Sam Bankman-Fried with an interview from prison. But FTX was this crypto exchange that was all about laundering money. All the money that went into Ukraine went into FTX, and then FTX gave tens of millions of dollars back to Democrat candidates here in the United States. That was an absolute money laundering situation. Child trafficking exposed again. Adrenochrome exposed. Executive Order 13848 extended again. This is the foreign interference in elections. We just had a story today that I'm going to show you about the Canadian government and the Canadian government's what they're doing to interfere in our elections. The American spirit reignited, like America first. Like, what a concept! We've been taken advantage of by the other nations for just decades and decades on trade. Like, it's just flat out unfair. Now, it may seem fair because America is such a big country and we might be dealing with other countries that are smaller, but I'm talking about China. I'm talking about Europe, the European Union. And that affects people that are trying to do business in the U.S., trying to manufacture in the U.S. So this is, and the money that's coming in, over $17 trillion in investment into the United States because people are sidestepping the tariffs. And meanwhile, the Supreme Court heard verbal arguments yesterday on the tariff situation. And it's going to be very close. It's going to be very interesting, but we may not get a decision from the Supreme Court on the tariffs until January of 2026. And by that point, we are going to see a lot of revenue coming in, the External Revenue Service, and especially if President Trump does away with the IRS. People worldwide are waking up every day. Twitter takeover, Truth Social, and Rumble, which is allowing for free speech, and I'd add to that on a lesser schedule for now, Snedheads. And so I'm reposting this. So if you guys would like, go on my X and repost that, or find it on Snedheads when it posts here in a few minutes. There we go. Okay, it's reposted. So we have a lot going on. We have a lot to be thankful for. We are seeing major things. Just think about it. If Kamala won, none of those things would be happening. And it's, we dodged a bullet there, my friends, and we dodged a bullet that Joe Biden and the Auto Pen administration did not do more damage than they did, although that's hard to believe, having brought in 20 million illegals and human beings, but many of them from prisons and mental institutions, et cetera. So it's very, yeah. So, and then, so you have things like Mamdani, who won the New York election. Well, it was either him or a, Republicans winning, Sliwa next to impossible in New York City. But who was their other option? The guy that killed Grandma and Grandpa? Cuomo? Not an option, my friends. So to me, was that a setup? Like, did they want to show one of the greatest cities in the world, certainly one of the early great cities in the world, has fallen quite far, but President Trump said it's going to be the best thing for the Republicans, Mamdani victory, and sure enough, I think that's what we're going to be seeing, because nothing makes sense about it. Like it's absolutely crazy that we're experiencing this, and meanwhile, the people are cheering for it in a way that you're like, wait a minute, do these people understand what they just did? And by the way, how many people that voted for Mamdani, how many of them lived through 9/11? And because the people that are voting for Mamdani, the narrative that they still believe about New York and 9/11 is that the Muslims did it. Now, you and I both know that, the real problem there is Israel. We're gonna find out more about that. But the fact that if they're voting for Mamdani, then they're also, being spoon-fed this narrative, and this narrative is very, very much controlled the story about 9/11, and the history books have continued to blame the Muslims for 9/11. So how many of the people that actually voted for this man, how many of them actually lived through 9/11 and the disgust that we all had for that? Let me take you to Tokyo and New York. The world's two great cities are now controlled by this shithead called Soros. It has been estimated that Soros funneled more than $50 million into Mamdani's campaign. Okay. And I'm going to take you to a few drops today that I'll give you an example. Let me see. See which one it was, but President Trump's post. Let's see. Okay, not that one. But there were, there were two posts that took us to drop 15, and I'm going to take you there now. The first drop is President Trump's post, and this was this afternoon at 4:53. Joe Lombardo is the strong and very popular governor of Nevada, a very special place to me, in that we had a big presidential election win just 1 year ago, November 5th, 2024. As a former sheriff of Clark County and brave U.S. Army veteran. Now, remember, Joe Lombardo was also, he oversaw the Harvest 91, the biggest mass shooting in U.S. history. And they also covered up the fact that there were more than one shooter. They sold us on the one shooter narrative. That seems to be, the way to go these days. And going all the way back to, JFK assassination. But so Lombardo was, he did as he was told, and he was brought up through the ranks. Now, we also know that what happened in Las Vegas was actually an assassination attempt on Mohammed bin Salman and by Prince Al-Walid. And that led to President Trump lending bin Salman the National Guard and some Marines to do the purge in Saudi Arabia. And we have been told that that would be the path of the U.S. as well, and Asia and EU that we would follow. So Joe strongly supports our incredible law enforcement, military, and veterans, and knows the wisdom and courage it takes to promote law and order. Now, was Joe, he seemed pretty deep state, but the fact that Trump is supporting them, either he's throwing Joe into the limelight so that we look deeper into him, or he's letting us know that he was, part of, keeping the lid on things so that that Saudi Arabia could take care of the purge and get rid of Al-Walid, who was a significant shareholder in Twitter. And as I've said to you many times, that's when the White Hats first got control of a piece of Twitter, until they brought in Musk to finish the job. As governor, he is fighting tirelessly to grow the economy, cut taxes and regulations, ensure no tax on tips, advance Made in the USA, unleash American energy dominance, provide access to affordable health care, champion school choice, keep our now very secure border secure, stop migrant crime, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Joe Lombardo is smart, strong, and tough, and has my complete and total endorsement for re-election. He will not let you down. Now, let me take you to the capital letters on that, by the way, are 150. We drop the 0. We go to 15, drop 15. There are more good people than bad. The wizards and warlocks, inside term, will not allow another satanic evil piece of shit control our country. Realize Soros, Clinton's, Obama, Putin, etc. are all controlled by three families. The fourth was removed post-Trump's victory. That was the House of Saud. 11-3, Podesta indicted. 11-6, Huma indicted. Today is November 6th. Whether that's 11-6, the date, or whether that's 11-6 Law of War Manual, that speaks to the foreign occupation of land, which we are experiencing. Remember, Soros was a foreigner. I believe he's got his citizenship, but he was absolutely a foreigner, Hungarian, and he has been kicked out of many countries, including Russia. So Manafort was placed into Trump's camp, as well as others. The corruption that will come out is so serious that deals must be cut for people to walk away. Otherwise, 70% of elected politicians would be in jail. You are seeing it already begin. How about Pelosi? Didn't we see Pelosi being shepherded by U.S. Marshals, not just at Joe Biden's inauguration, but in her driveway in San Francisco? U.S. Marshals, my friends. 70% of them would be in jail. Okay. So deals must be cut for people to walk away. President Trump took us to this drop today with his capital letter count on the day that Nancy Pelosi announced her retirement, which is the biggest government retirement we have seen, period, on the deep state side. Okay. A deep cleaning is occurring, and the prevention and defense of pure evil is occurring on a daily basis. They never thought they were going to lose control of the presidency, not just the Democrats, and thought they had control since making past mistakes with JFK and Reagan. Goodspeed Patriots, P.S. Soros is targeted. Now, on the same page as Huma's indictment, Soros is targeted. Does it make sense to you if you were Huma Abedin and you were quite aware of the Q drops? You were quite aware that Hillary Clinton was mentioned more than anybody else in the Q drops. You were quite aware that not only was Hillary mentioned, your mentor, but you, Huma, was mentioned many, many times. And not only that, but your husband's laptop with the life insurance policy with the supposed frazzle drip video that made many veteran detectives ill and commit suicide or knocked off after the viewing of such a thing. And the Southern District of New York has sat on that, and the FBI have sat on that information and done nothing with it, and buried most of it, I believe. And we will see what that looks like. So when you have a day such as this, and you are seeing Alex Soros. So if you're Huma Abedin, and you know not only is Hillary targeted, not only are you targeted, but Alex and George Soros are heavily targeted by Q. Would you marry him? Folks, to me, I would take her money. I would go live on an island somewhere and get out of the public eye and get far away from anybody mentioned in the Q drops. Now, Q basically told us that she has turned, evidence in to that she's turned on Hillary Clinton, because Q asked us, would you give up your child and go to prison for Hillary Clinton? Especially knowing who your husband is, who is a pedophile, Anthony Weiner. Would you do that? Q was basically telling us, no, she wouldn't do that. So then she's going to go get engaged and then get married to Alex Soros. By the way, this past summer on Trump's birthday in New York on Long Island. Very interesting, folks. This is quite the movie. This is quite the movie. So Soros is still not only very, very, both of them, very involved in these elections, okay, but also very, very much involved in the attorney generals, the DAs, the police commissioners, the mayors, the governors, deeply entrenched. Okay. And that's got to be, yeah. And here is, Putin. Jay Bowles said, why do you think they hate this man so deeply? He threw Soros out of Russia. He was called a threat to world order by Jacob Rothschild in 2015. He banned genetically modified plants and animals. He banned LGBTQ ideology from schools. and he actually puts Russia first. That's why they hate him. That's why they have funded Ukraine to massive, massive levels. And that is why we are seeing the things that we are seeing. So very, very interesting what is unfolding, my friends, and it's getting very dazing, if you will. So yeah, so very and remember, President Trump told us that the election of Mamdani, who, by the way, 2 million people in New York City voted for the first time since, I think, 1963. Excuse me. So very, very, very interesting that we're seeing what we're seeing now tonight. And by the way, tonight we are also seeing. I wanted to share Heather's post on Snedheads tonight, which is today's Delta. Okay. November 6th, 2018, history is being made. You are the saviors of mankind. Nothing will stop what is coming. Nothing. Okay. It's very, very apparent to me, my friends, that what we are watching is a military operation that is unparalleled in human history. And by the way, whenever anybody tries to equate Q with Operation Trust during the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, there's one thing that's so very important to understand. Were they similar in certain aspects? Yes, they were. What was the main difference? The main difference was, in Russia, they took the guns away from citizens. In 1918, unless you were in the Red Army, it was illegal to own guns. Once they disarmed the population, then the atrocities began, the starvation, the murders. That's how that goes down. You don't have an operation like Q that is Socratic, that is asking questions, that are getting people to activate their minds, that has so many predictions and so much exposure of the deep state, the very, very players in the deep state. There's no way that you do that and get away with it as a psychological operation against the people that are the most heavily armed population in the history of the world. It's not going to work. If that's their intention, they fucked up because they woke us up and they didn't get the guns. Okay. All right. That's the bottom line. All right. So that's any kind of mental disorder that people have about this. They need to understand the history. Okay. So let me take you to Matt Gaetz. This is former Congressman Matt Gaetz posted this palette with a big orange Q. Okay. This is why I said Q's going mainstream, because we have Dmitry from Russia posting Q drops, and now we have Matt Gaetz posting Q, and we have Marjorie Taylor Greene talking about Q, dismissing it like, pretty much any good politician would do. Remember, Matt Gaetz is no longer a politician, so he doesn't have to, deal with a leftist saying that he follows this fringe right conspiracy theory, which is what YouTube calls it, which is what Grok calls it, etc. Ginger, his wife, posted their little baby in a frog outfit. This was last week on 11/1. Okay. So, what's going on here, my friends? Is it, is Q going mainstream? I believe it is. I believe it is the slow trickle. Okay. A slow trickle. Now, I want to also show you again MJ Truth Ultra, which I've recommended that you all follow here on X, okay, at MJ Truth Ultra. We follow each other, does some really great stuff, and did the post from Gates, did the 11/6/25, went to a Delta, and there's a big Q in the sky on this Delta. Okay. No accidents, my friends. There are no coincidences. How many coincidences before mathematically impossible? Okay. This is what we're seeing. This is Q slowly trickling into the mainstream narrative. And the sheer level of clarity that there is an operation going on is just amazing. For example, this is Spiritual Street Fighters graphic, and it says the future is here. The future is here. And she did President Trump, and President Trump has shared Spiritual Street Fighter's beautiful artwork that she allows me to use for the show because she loves the show. And she said, I'm not going to do podcasts, but if I do, it's going to be with you. I'm grateful for her beautiful artwork every day I use it. President Trump has retruthed her 41 times, and she is clearly an anon. She is clearly pro-Q. She is clearly, most of those posts were Q plus on his collar. Q sayings, nothing can stop what is coming. Where we go one, we go all. And President Trump has reposted that continuously, and as further confirmations as to what's really going on in the world. So, just keep that in mind as you see this slow trickle, right? And I want to take you back to the drops because I didn't finish with that President Trump drop, and that is that Think Mirror takes us to 51, One Nation Under God. And he just took us here. Let me see, either the beginning of this week or the end of last week. And basically, this is from an anon, saying I've watched as society has been effectively addicted to MSM, apps, social media, games, music, all propaganda. And the moment you try to open anyone's eyes, you are shunned, being dumbed down, weakened, and groomed for passivity and stupidity through food and their addictions, like calf literally being fattened for slaughter. Look what's happened with Maha, with the food, with the sodas, with the mercury in the vaccines, and with the aluminums in the vaccines, right? And with the race war propaganda and Pizzagate possibility, I became suicidal because I can't stand that no one will open their eyes and are being manipulated hard. And he's basically saying, listen, I hope with all my heart that Trump is going to make good on his promise to MAGA and clean the swamp. So I won't get into the rest of it because but he said the pieces are coming together for me. And if this is true, Those working with him are absolute geniuses, because I would have never imagined there would be any way possible to take the monster of corruption that has overtaken this country. That's what we're seeing. Okay. The White Hats, this was signed by the White Hats. Dear Patriot, we hear you. We hear all Americans such as yourself. The time has come to take back our great land. The time is now. Rest assured, POTUS is backed by the absolute finest people alive, who are all dedicated to the eradication, evil, and corruption from the U.S. and world. Find peace. God is with us. God bless, and be safe. Okay, these are the kind of drops that President Trump is taking us to, more and more and more and more. Also, the military timestamp on that post took us to, oh, by the way, the regular timestamp was 4:53. Side-by-side graphic, locate and create. Search crumbs, number 2. Who's number 2? No deals. Now, we just saw a post that said deals must be made in order for them to walk away. Okay. Now, the kind of deals that are being made, and then you see a drop from the same post, no deals. Please understand, no one's getting out of this alive. No one's like escaping this. Nancy Pelosi is not going to live out her life in San Francisco walking her dog or walking her gay husband. Okay. You know, hammer and toe. It's not going to happen. The deal that a Nancy Pelosi, in my opinion, I don't know, this is a speculation part of my show, but the kind of deal that she would make is, you got to step aside now. She's being told what to do. She is not in control. She is being directed by the White Hats. It's time to step down. And we'll give you, you know, all the posts today from Gavin Newsom and the Democrats and all that. The greatest speaker in the history of the country. Really? Wow. Let's find out a little bit more about her, shall we, in the coming months? So that when she's finally out of the public eye and people talking about her day to day, that the shit's going to hit the fan. Now, number 2 is Andrew McCabe and the FBI, along with leaking James Comey, which is the current investigation ongoing about his leaks of the phony Hillary Clinton investigation, including her 3,300,000 illegally deleted emails, be given $700,000 for wife's campaign by Clinton puppets during investigation. This is the Andrew McCabe's wife was running for office, and McAuliffe gave her $700,000, who was the Hillary Clinton campaign manager or the finance manager. Previous also logged in graphic form 10 plus others, timestamps important, countdown markers. So timestamps important. That's how we get to these positions. The countdown seems to be that most of the drops that we're getting are taking us closer and closer and closer to 1. Markers. Q. We're still looking for marker 9 for the first indictment. This is the military timestamp. Oh, by the way, that post was from December 23rd, 2017. Leaking James Comey is not just now coming to light. That was 8 years ago. This is how far ahead Q is. That's why most Anons sound fucking crazy, because the shit that we were talking about 8 years ago, most of the American population, the world population, were like, what? He's the FBI director. If he was really guilty of anything, you know, the mainstream media would be all over it. Oh, God, really? Really? The military timestamp brings up the Supreme Court, which is currently hearing arguments on the tariffs, which if they take away President Trump's ability to tariff other countries, and he just talked about in that press conference today that he was able to stop some of the wars, which I told you, a while back, because of the tariffs. There's no bargaining room. He's using financial means. He's using financial leverage to stop wars. No young men or women of this country are dying in trying to stop wars, and no young men and women in those countries are dying. Why? Because he has leverage. He has financial leverage. And if the Supreme Court takes that away from Donald Trump, we are going to have a constitutional crisis. And I believe that will lead to the military, because it's a corrupted system, my friends, without question. It is corrupted, and it needs to be brought to light. And it is. I am very excited about the things that are being brought to light, and something that we should, pay attention to. This is the Tina Peters story I want to share with you all, from John Solomon.
I want to turn to something we're going to break right here, right now. I just got this before I came on air. The team will put it on air right now. Remember Tina Peters? She was the election clerk in Colorado that was sent to prison and convicted for her efforts to raise questions about election issues during the 2020 election in that state. Well, today, Just the News obtained this letter showing that the Deputy Attorney General in the federal government is working, Todd Blanche, is asked the Bureau of Prisons to find any way they can legally to move Tina Peters out of Colorado State Prison and into federal prison. Now, that could signal several things. One, they're worried about her safety. Two, that she might become a witness in some future federal investigation. Therefore, having her in federal custody would be a part. We don't know the reason for this request, but we have confirmed that this request has occurred. Breaking news, the story is going to be up on justthenews.com. You got it first because you watch us here at Real America's Voice. And I want to turn to something we're going to break right here, right now. I just got this before I came on air. The team will put it on air right now. Remember Tina Peters? She was the election clerk in Colorado that was sent to prison and convicted for her efforts to raise questions about election issues during the 2020 election in that state. Well, today, Just the News obtained this letter showing that the Deputy Attorney General in the federal government is working, Todd Blanche, is asked the Bureau of Prisons to find any way they can legally to move Tina Peters out of Colorado State Prison and into federal prison. Now, that could signal several things. One, they're worried about her safety. Two, that she might become a witness in some future federal investigation. Therefore, having her in federal custody would be a part. We don't know the reason for this request, but we have confirmed that this request has occurred. Breaking news, the story is going to be up on justthenews.com. You got it first because you watch us here at Real America's Voice. And
There you go. And federal prison, just so you know, my guess on the situation is that it'll be much, much easier for her, and it'll be much, much easier for them to bring real justice to what's going on. Okay, so also, by the way, Matt Gaetz, okay, this is a post that he did: develop the plan, execute the plan, don't leak the plan. And Drogo says, trust the plan. I posted dresses child as frog, posts Q on pallet on a delta of another big Q, and then this, and also this, because this predated that. So this is coming in. This is being dripped in slowly but surely into the mainstream, and so this is very, very important that we keep an eye on this. Oh, and by the way, this is Kirill Dmitriev, who was also posted several Q drops and Q related content where we go one, we go all, as Putin's special envoy. And he posted this, Nancy Pelosi, a couple years ago.
This week, we saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia. This week, we saw cold, hard evidence of the Trump campaign, indeed the Trump family, eagerly intending to collude possibly with Russia.
Collude possibly with Russia, and we now know that that was an absolute witch hunt that she is going to be responsible for, my friends. She's going down over J6. She planned this along with the deep state. She is going down. Remember, folks, when they pushed COVID and we talked about how this was going to be so that they could take out President Donald Trump by using mail-in ballots and also force the vaccine. She pushed through the impeachment vote in the House. She rushed the vote in the House and then sat on that vote for at least 2 weeks in January, from December to January. And then I believe it was January 15th was the first COVID case in the United States. And then she walked that order over, that impeachment over to the Senate. She waited over 2 weeks. And I told you at that time, and Nans told you at that time, that that was the trigger for her to deliver the impeachment papers, because they knew that the impeachment wasn't going to pass the Senate, and yet it was still being used to discount and discredit President Donald John Trump. But it was also, once they knew they had COVID in place and the coming absolute, just pummeling of COVID information and the increases in death count and the CNN constant numbers, the 33s throughout COVID, all of that, the dancing, doctors and nurses, the all of that nonsense was necessary to take out Donald Trump. Okay. Absolutely necessary. Right. And that was the trigger for her to do that, was the COVID first COVID case in the United States. Right. Now, speaking of health, let me take you to Bobby Kennedy today, and play that for you.
President Trump is the friend of the forgotten American. Obesity is a disease of poverty, overwhelmingly. And these drugs have only been available for people who have wealth. At one point, the majority of prescriptions, the highest concentration of prescriptions in this country, was the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And what about the people who live in rural areas, who live in food deserts? What about the people in urban areas who live in food deserts and are suffering from obesity and are locked into that system where they can only get ultra-processed foods, which are aggravating the problem. This will be a lifesaver to them. It's not a panacea. It's not a silver bullet. President Trump has also instructed us to address and end the root causes of chronic disease, and we're doing that. We're about to release dietary guidelines that are going to change the food culture in this country. They're going to change the kind of food the military gets. They're going to change the kind of food that our children get. We're releasing those in December.
The dietary guidelines are absolutely absurd in this country, and they were created not to make us healthier, but to make us much sicker. A gentleman passed out at this event today, and right away the Democrats rushed to show that Bobby Kennedy rushed out of the room, which he was going to get medical attention, right, for this gentleman. And then, of course, the Democrats are all sharing this photo and calling Trump an evil man because he's standing there and everyone's attending to this man as if he doesn't even care. Well, folks, you're going to need more than a picture to convince us that he doesn't care, especially when it's obvious that you don't care about human beings at all. And it's just disgusting how they're using, they're trying to manipulate. And it's so clear and it's so obvious that it's not even legitimate at all. Folks, I was speaking about these influencers that are pushing this Israeli propaganda. And listen to Brandon Tatum today, or he was at this Republican Jewish coalition with Randy Fine and others, Mark Levin. This is where those clips came from. Listen to Brandon Tatum.
The reality is that Israel is one of our greatest allies. And for people to think otherwise, you fall in one of two categories. You're either ignorant or you simply hate Jews. Quit lying to yourself. Quit trying to cover. You just hate Jews.
Right.
And when I watch Donald Trump and I see him with Bibi Netanyahu, I see people that operate in reality. The reality is that Israel is one of our greatest allies. And for people to think otherwise, you fall in one of two categories. You're either ignorant or you simply hate Jews.
Folks, I wasn't aware. Thank you, Brandon, for educating us all on this, because I wasn't aware that was the case, that if we challenge the government of Israel, that we're either ignorant or we hate Jews. I'm not sure. Am I ignorant or do I hate Jews? Which is it with me? I'm not quite sure. I'm going to have to figure this out. I'm going to do some meditation. I'm going to think about Brandon's very, very wise words there. Not paid at all, not manipulated at all, not no trips to Israel behind that, no $7,000 payment for posts. I'm sure it's just a very organic take on those of us who challenge the atrocities that Israel has been a part of since their very young life as a so-called country. Yes. So thank you, Brandon Tatum. Please keep doing your great work, because no one is exposing this ridiculous agenda more than cucks like you. This is also, let me get to, I'm telling you, folks, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I have no problem with this stuff at all, because of the sheer damage that they are doing. Okay, so this is President Trump on what's happening to the Christians in Nigeria.
We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible, horrible atrocities. I'm hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. These are cherished people. These are great people. Leave them alone. Warning, the Nigerian government better move fast before it's too late. If they don't, there's going to be hell to pay. We're going to do things to Nigeria that Nigeria is not going to be happy about and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns a-blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing.
My only concern about that whole situation is that they don't do it before I get that $50 million that Nigerian prince said he can get me if I could just get him a couple $100 to, get his bank vault open. So I'm hoping that I can make that happen before, anything major happens with Nigeria. Let's come back home to the Speaker Mike Johnson on the government shutdown. The question is the government going to reopen? And by the way, this is the longest shutdown in U.S. history, and the only thing that's come from it is that we are now aware of how many illegal migrants were on the SNAP program, and also what people were buying with those SNAP programs, and also the nationality of the SNAP recipients, and also how inept and how worthless Congress really is.
But when we say the 1.5 trillion, that is the actual counter offer that they put on paper and filed in the Senate. It is still sitting over there as their counter proposal. 1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. I mean, it's just madness. And included in that, yes, go read the bill. They want almost $200 billion to be returned to health care benefits for illegal aliens. They want to send all these billions of dollars back over to foreign countries for social spending in other countries. They wanted to restore $500 million to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. All these things. And in that proposal, amazingly, shockingly to us, they put it on paper. They want to repeal the $50 billion rural hospital fund that Republicans worked so hard to get signed into law July 4th. So it's just a mishmash of priorities and things that different Democrats are claiming. That illustrates the very point. This was never about one particular issue. They just wanted to show a fight. They wanted to look tough to the Marxist rise in their party. And remember this, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are both New Yorkers, right? We all just saw what happened in New York City. Mamdani is all the rage now, and the young communists are uprising, and that scares the old guard Democrats in Congress. And so they were afraid they'd get a challenge from a Mamdani disciple in their next election cycle. And
Speaker,
that is what all this is about.
Yeah, and the Democrats, and I mentioned this from a standpoint of what's going on with the Democrats. They with the polls that we've seen, they definitely have won the public perception in terms of more people believe that the Republicans are responsible for the shutdown than the Democrats. But we also know the value of those polls, and I wouldn't wipe my ass with most of them. Here is the Premier of Ontario.
Launch
Canada.
a $75 million ad, and we're going to repeat that message to every Republican district there is, right across the entire country.
By the way, that $75 million ad was a bastardization of Ronald Reagan's speech regarding tariffs that they made look like he wasn't in favor of tariffs at all. And that was not the case with Ronald Reagan. Il Donaldo Trumpo, who we know President Trump is in control of this account, certainly his team, says no time for panicans, hold the line. Okay. Panicans, my friends. We need to understand that we cannot panic during this time, because it is very, very important that we understand that this is bigger than we can even imagine. My friend Sir Oliver said, I don't care what you think of me or why I follow Q. Q is real and has been confirmed time and again. And one day, when the truth hits the history books, the world will know it wasn't just a movement. It was the wave that shook the foundations of the systems that enslaved humanity and freed the world. Great, great post by Oliver. So this is, we are very much seeing something very, very important in human history. And by the way, I meant to tell you that Dan Scavino shared that video that I just played for you. Okay. He said, make no mistake about it, Canada is openly interfering in U.S. elections by targeting Republican districts. Could you imagine if roles were reversed and President Trump ran ads in Canada? Scott Bessent said, this is unacceptable. It's the equivalent of election interference. Nobody likes foreign election interference. Nobody likes foreign governments trying to sway public opinion, which takes us to President Trump's executive order 13848, which is going to be the takedown of these people that have interfered in U.S. elections. It's not going to be pretty when it all goes down, but we are in the right, and we are moving forward in a very, very good direction. Folks, I've done quite a bit of talking about this young man, Pat Tillman. He was an Arizona Cardinals NFL football player. He left the NFL to go fight for his country after 9/11. He went to Afghanistan, and he died today. He would have, I'm sorry, his birthday is today. He would have been 49 years old today. Rest in peace, Pat Tillman. Now, the story goes on Pat Tillman was that because he had such an incredible, people knew about Pat Tillman, who leaves the NFL making millions of dollars to go fight in a war. Well, he was inspired by what happened on 9/11. This gentleman certainly would never vote for Mamdani had he been in New York City yesterday. But the most important thing about this is that the word on the streets is that Pat Tillman was going to expose what the U.S. government military was really doing in Afghanistan, and that was basically covering the poppy fields and defending the poppy fields and the drug trade back into the United States. And what followed after the U.S. was in Afghanistan, the Taliban had gotten the opioid production, that's where the poppy plants are, down to just 20% from 100. And when the U.S. government went in, those numbers went back up significantly. And I have heard many American soldiers speak to the fact that the U.S. government, the U.S. military, was basically drug running. They were protecting the drug running, and they were concerned that Pat Tillman was going to blow the whistle on that. And I believe he was murdered for that. I could be wrong, but it doesn't make sense. Dan Bongino posted today an update for you on our efforts to protect the homeland. 3 research scholars from China, Jibai, Fefgan Zhang, and whatever the hell that guy's name is, have been charged with conspiracy to smuggle biological materials into the United States and for making false statements to U.S. Customs and Border Protection officers. These are the latest charges in a string of cases stemming from Chinese national students' criminal activities at university research centers. By the way, this is one of the reasons why I was disappointed when President Trump reinstated Chinese students in U.S. Colleges. FBI counterintelligence will not tolerate any attempt to exploit American institutions to break the law, and we remain dedicated to protecting our communities and our educational institutions from threats like these. The FBI leads the National Counterintelligence Task Force, which has 55 federal and 143 state and local partners, with a counterintelligence task force in every FBI field office. The NCITF launched a nationwide initiative to crack down on biosmuggling, and the members, FBI Detroit, HSI HQ, and CBP, Homeland Security Headquarters, work together to investigate this case. Your government partnerships are hard at work protecting you and your community every day. If your agency wants to join in defending the homeland, please contact your local FBI field office. Hey, quick shout out to Maggie Gatley. Maggie had a birthday this week. Maggie, God love you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Maggie. May your God love you like I do. Happy birthday, Maggie. I hope you had a wonderful one. And it's good things happening, my friends. Good things happening. This Chinese infiltration, I believe, will be exposed even more and more as time goes on, and we will see great things happening. Here's some good news. This young man, this is shared by Joka Army, and let me play this for you here.
What is the invention that you created?
So I have invented the world's first solar continuous microwave pyrolysis reactor.
And what does that mean?
I am able to put plastic inside of a chamber that I can continuously feed all day long, all night long, and process plastic waste and turn it into gasoline, diesel, jet fuel, natural gas, and solid carbon.
Wow, that's amazing.
All off of sunlight.
All off of sunlight.
Yep.
So you can turn plastic into gas, and we can use this for our cars.
Of course. We've used it in all types of cars already, as I've demonstrated it to be superior.
Right.
To pump fuel.
And I saw where you did a post where you were scared for your life because of this technology you created, and you felt like you were being watched.
Yeah, so I've had Black Hawk helicopters didn't show up on flight radar, circle my property a few times at night, had that on video.
Who do you think these Black Hawk helicopters were?
Well, given that it did not show up on Flight Radar 24, which almost every aircraft in the world does, including military jets, it had to be more than likely a 3-letter government agency, CIA, FBI. It could have possibly been the state troopers, but that's unlikely because of where my location is. Like I said, I know I'm not going to live long.
Mm-hmm.
If I need to give my life to get this technology out there to make the change, and I'm willing to do it, if that means that I'm not going to live long, then that's okay.
So would you be willing to give your life for this cause?
Of course. Yeah, I've already blown myself up.
After you went viral for creating this technology, you disappeared for weeks and went missing. Like, what happened?
Yeah, so I had a pretty serious cyber attack situation. You know, over the years in which I've done this, not everybody's happy with my work, and so there were some people who they took advantage of my iCloud, you know, camera, the microphone, text logs, phone calls, everything.
Are you still in fear for your life?
I live in constant paranoia and on defense. I want to see this through to the end. I want to make an impact on the world, and so in order to do that, I need to be alive. And I understand that there are a lot of forces that don't want to see me prosper, that would prefer if I'm not here anymore.
Why do you think that certain people are threatened by this technology that you invented?
I understand that what I'm doing is innovative, and that's a breakthrough in many different ways and disruptive, right? This is a form of energy liberation. But the point is to get rid of plastic, right? I just happen to make fuel, right? We want to truly get rid of plastics and microplastics and nanoplastics on a chemical level where they can no longer be in the environment, no longer cause any harm. Eventually, society is going to catch up globally, but plastic should be considered a hazardous waste, and that's what I'm here for.
Wow, you are amazing, and you can come meet him today in Miami.
Wednesday at the Dolphin Mall. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I'm going to be there for just a general meet and greet. We in Miami, baby.
We in Miami.
Hey, that's awesome, folks. Please give that a like and a repost.
What is the
my
invention
thread.
that you created?
I just reposted it. It's very, very important that we get the word out on that young man and the work that he's doing. Very, very exciting. And yeah, happy birthday, Maggie. Fantastic. Folks, if you would like to support my work, I am getting no money from the state of Israel or Bibi Netanyahu, even though I dropped him my Zelle. I never heard from him. So that's not going to work out for me, folks. So I ask for your support. And you may do so in the manners below. And I appreciate you, and I appreciate your support of this Truthcast to keep the lights on here, to keep me rolling forward in a way that serves you and serves our absolute conviction to right the wrongs of this world and to truly put us on a new path forward. And I'm dropping the direct stripe line in the chat as well. If you would care to donate to my work here, it is appreciated. And the reason it is free is because there are those of you out there who do not have the means to support a program like this. And I would just say that God love you, and there is nothing that should keep this kind of just basic important information from reaching your ears. And I wasn't going to allow that to happen. Because you are financially strapped. So it's really about the people who have the means to be able to support something like this, so that people that don't have the means can continue to get this information. Also, if you would like to support us by getting involved with Snedheads, please do that. And this is a social media platform that is, absolutely fantastic. And we are seeing some incredible posts from you all, which I'm very excited about. And this is, I'll just give you a couple of examples. Kathy Drexler, new NYPD mounted unit, a police officer on a camel. Oh my God, that's good. There's the post from tonight's show. I'm going to pin that to the top. You'll see my my post on Matt Gaetz over here. We have Kathy also posting, this is Dick. Dick moved out of a blue state to escape Democrat high taxes. I lost it. And failed policies. Dick moved to a red state, but still votes for Democrats who will raise taxes and implement failed policies. Don't be a dick. Okay. There's Heather's post I showed you earlier. This is a nice post by Sean that takes us to the show Redacted. J.L. Bear, socialism, democratic socialism. This is a post from Caroline Munden, and just listen to this. I saw, thank you, Diana. No sound on that video, my friends. I just saw that that was the case. My StreamYard mentioned that the audio had been deleted. My apologies on that. She basically is saying, shame on you, Canada, that they are coming after our poultry farm and they're going to kill all those ostriches. And one of my our listeners here is actually said that the hold on a second, that they heard like 100 gunshots around the ostrich farm, and I think that they're definitely going to kill them because the Supreme Court did not stay their execution. It's just really, really tragic. Yeah. So, Lori says, question, is Dick Cheney passing years ago, or am I in the Matrix? He got a heart transplant years ago. That might be what you're thinking of, but I don't remember him dying at all. So yeah, so sorry about that, my friends, about that sound. And I don't know if I'm going to get that back or not, unfortunately, because yeah, Hunter Sabo said it. She's from Canada. Thank you, Hunter, for that. Yeah, my friends, this is tragic. You know, this kind of thing is happening, and it's very clear to see that this is the heavy police presence at the ostrich farm. Let me see if I can get audio back here and play this one for you. Yeah. No audio. Sorry, guys. I've lost that capability right now. My apologies. Let me see. You know what? I'm going to have to jump out of the studio for a moment, and then I'll jump back in. I'm going to see if that's going to do the trick, because I want to show you what President Trump posted. Okay, so we're going to try this again. Let me see. I'm going to take you to President Trump's post yesterday, which inspired my post yesterday, which was just my words. And I'll play this for you, and let me know right away, please, if we have audio. Let me cue it. Okay, here we go.
My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. So with American pride swelling in our hearts and American courage stirring in our souls, I say these words to you. We will make America great again.
Okay, we got our sound back. Thanks for the feedback on that as well. So, my friends, this was President Trump yesterday. He said, "My fellow Americans, our movement is far from over. In fact, our fight has only just begun." And I saw my fellow Americans, and my hope, my wish was that the next post would be, "The storm is upon us," beginning with the next post, because that is what we're all waiting for. He did not post this on X, look to Twitter, which is what we're looking for. This was on Truth Social only. And it takes us to the following. There was the length of time on this video was 51 seconds. And I took you to that already with this post. "Dear Patriot, we hear you." Okay. The time has come back to take back our great land. And the mirror is the Podesta and Huma indictment. And 70% of elected politicians would be in jail. So deals must be cut for people to walk away. And again, what happened to Hillary Clinton, right? Okay. Also, 6:38. Let me take us to that. 6:38 shows Hillary Clinton and her kissing Robert Byrd, stronger together. Robert Byrd was a grand poobah of the KKK. And it also takes us to 73, which on the blue, and 73 takes us to what was POTUS's last tweet prior to who was it addressed. This takes us to January 6th, which Pelosi was the orchestrator of. Okay. And this is, and this also took us to the attempts on President Trump's life. which they've been significant, they've been numerous, and it's definitely something that we need to know without question. President Trump's last post was just at 9:26 p.m. tonight. He said, "I am thrilled to announce an incredible trade and economic deal between the United States and Uzbekistan. Over the next 3 years, Uzbekistan will be purchasing and investing almost $35 billion, and in the next 10 years, over $100 billion in key American sectors, including critical minerals, aviation, automotive parts, infrastructure, agriculture, energy, and chemicals, information technology, and others. I want to thank Uzbekistan's highly respected president, Shavkat Mirziyoyev." How'd I do on that? We look forward to a long and productive relationship between our countries. So again, more money coming into the United States. Now, many of you are seeing differences in prices of what you're seeing out there in the world. But there are many that are seeing lower prices, and certainly we're seeing lower prices on fuel, on gasoline, and that lowers the price of everything. But one thing that we need to remember is that it's going to take some time, because we need to experience the benefit of the tariffs, and we need to understand that he is changing our country long term. And just as public companies, cheers, are no longer going to be reporting quarterly because they were making short-term decisions that often led to long-term ill health of their companies, President Trump is not looking to make quarterly decisions. These are long-term good decisions for the benefit of our country. And we're seeing unprecedented investment into the U.S., and that's because of the tariffs, which is absolutely imperative that the Supreme Court, back that, and also the lack of wars is due to the tariffs as well. So we've got some really, really good stuff ahead of us, my friends. Now, I'm not sure my schedule this weekend. I am going to be looking to do maybe one show over the weekend, maybe some shorter content. But tomorrow night I will probably be off. So maybe look for me on Saturday. Now, if something major happens tomorrow, I certainly will come to you. But, what we're seeing, my friends, is just, it takes patience. And I do want to say that there are so many things that are happening that are leading to, for example, what was it? Whoopi talked about on The View that it was an organic protest of the No Kings protest, and yet we already know where the funding is coming from. Okay, and I'll give you the example. Here's the breakdown of the funding of the No Kings protest. And the financiers are Arabella, to the tune of, 79 million, Warren Buffett, 16 million, Ford, 51 million, Rockefeller, 26 million, Soros, 72 million, Tides, 45 million, $294.5 million that were spent on the No Kings protest. We knew this right away. And yet, by the way, 294 million, you don't need any money to march in the streets. You don't need any money. You don't need that much money for signage. You need that much money if you're paying people to show up and to instigate and to and to so obvious a controlled protest. This is not, my friends, the First Amendment. This is a violation of the First Amendment, and we are seeing it firsthand. My friends, we're 2 hours and 16 minutes in. I'm going to end here, and I look forward to seeing you at some point over the weekend. But we are looking at some great things indeed, my friends. And thank you for all of those who are sharing out the show. And if you are sharing out the show, please tag somebody that you think would really benefit by seeing my work. And ideally, Candace Owens, Ryan Matta, Ian Carroll, some of these people that are so smart and have so much good research behind them, but yet do not see past the relationship between President Trump and Israel as to what it, in my opinion, really is, especially given the tools that he has demolished that those that control Israel are using to control the minds of man, the media and the banks. But they don't have Q. They're not anons. They don't see the big picture. And I really do want to have that conversation with them, like I've had with so many folks that, didn't believe in Q. My buddy Lee credits me with turning him on Q. Many of you have credited me with introducing you to Q and letting you know what's going on and showing you the many, many comms, the many coincidences, the many predictions that Q made 8 years ago. Folks, we were so far out ahead of this that we were behind it in terms of, like, remember when we used to run laps for a mile and you'd be so far out ahead that you were behind the person in last place? That's what this is. That's what we've been experiencing with sharing the information that Q has given us. And this is truly a remarkable time in human history. I'm happy to be here with you, exposing the things that we need exposed and highlighting the things that we need highlighted. And I appreciate your support of this Truthcast. Much love to you and yours, and take care of yourself, and don't allow this media, don't allow the things that are happening to vexate your spirit. Breathe deeply, pull your emotions out of the day-to-day. Don't get caught up in the Mandami stuff. Of course, if you're in New York, it's hard not to, but I'm telling you, like President Trump said, he made a statement that wasn't accurate, and he said, Mamdani's win is going to be the greatest thing to the Republican Party that's happened in a long, long time. Is it a white hat script? Is he central casting? It certainly seems, though, as so. And that is something that we must keep an eye on. Actually, I want to show you two more things that were shared by Caroline on social media. This is supposedly a threat to Erica Kirk, seemingly from Ukraine soldiers. Let me just share this. This is very very odd, and I haven't confirmed this, but if you repeat what your husband said, call to cede Ukrainian territory to Russia and stop providing aid to Ukraine, you will die just like your husband. Watch your neck, Erica. All right, that's fucked up. Okay, that's really fucked up. And something that we should, and here, my friends, are some female voters in New York City that feel pretty good about Mamdani.
Sharia law starts now. Absolutely. Zahran Mamdani, Islamic Caliphate. Islamic Caliphate of New York starts today, baby. God, there is just something so electric, so satisfying about knowing that my MAGA parents, wherever they are probably having a horrible night tonight. Oh, I literally just got goosebumps thinking about it. Like they are in such a bad mood probably about the fact that Zoran just won and Prop 50 is gonna pass. Like, wow. God, I'm sorry. It just makes me feel good that my MAGA parents are probably upset right now. When the day starts with Dick Cheney being dead, it ends with Mamdani winning. Oh, yes. Oh. I'm so happy. Oh my God, I'm so happy. Sharia law.
Here's the good news. See, I try to find the silver lining in every cloud. The good news is that the faces of those women we won't have to look at anymore because they'll be in burqas if what they want continues. So there's the upside. All right, my friends, be well. I love you. Good night.